had good signal and everything?
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Ready when you are.
Check recording ready.
All right. Good morning, guys. We're here to learn about the new soundboard and how to operate it with startup and shutdown procedures. So there is a certain way that you have to do these because of popping noises, and that will actually affect your speakers long term. So what we'll come and do is on this setup up here, we'll come back, and this power conditioner runs the board, all the equipment underneath, and it helps with surge protection along with electrical surges and things of that sort. So it protects all of your equipment that's hooked up to it. So we'll turn that on, make sure the board comes on, and then we'll go up, and with this switch you'll actually turn on the surge protector up on the stage, and it controls all of the stage equipment as well. So we'll flip that on. The board comes up, and it should come up to the last settings that you had that were on the board when you shut it down. So that's a really cool feature of these digital boards. So that way, if you had something that you weren't quite sure that was going well or going bad, you can go back and look at it, turn it up, turn it down, reset a gain, reset the EQ on it, or whatever you need to do. So when you start to run one of these, it's a little bit different than the analog board that you guys were used to. With this, if you want to change anything on a channel, say like a microphone or the keyboard or anything like that, you have to go and select that channel that you're looking for. Say we want to go and we want to change the EQ or the gain structure on the keyboard. You'll go over here to the keyboard channel that's labeled. You'll select that channel, and there you can change the gain structure, you can change the EQ, you can put a gate on it, you can put compression on it, whatever you need to do for that channel. Or you can actually bring up the volume in all of the monitors individually from this channel selection right here. And that's done with these 4 knobs and these 2 buttons. There are 6 individual monitor mixes that we can run with this board without any issues and having to double up on monitors. If you want to check out or raise the volume on any of the channels, you can go and select the button and then monitor 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 on these. And you just change those between changing buttons. Now, if you need to adjust a channel that is not on the first, what we call layer of 16 inputs, you go over to this left side and you'll go to channel 17 to 32. Now, on this one, on this layer, we have channel 17 and 18 linked together for a stereo input. And with those, these 2 sliders are linked together. It is very important that you don't move both of them at the same time, because that will actually strip the gears inside the slider mechanism. So you'll just grab one of them and they'll move together.
Okay.
But it is very important that you don't strip those gears, because in time, after that, you won't be able to use the slider if the gears are stripped and it won't work properly. And that's when we got to send off and have the board either fixed or replaced.
And what channel is that? Is that the computer?
That is 17 and 18.
What's on it?
That is the CD player that is mounted right here in this rack. The computer is also right next to it. Hey, where's mine? I'm good. Thank you.
really?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Bring you one.
I'm good. Thank you, though. The computer is also on this layer, so if you all have a video or music that you want to pull up from the computer side, this is where you'll control that input. Also, on all the channels, you have a mute button for every channel, just like you did on the other board. If the button is lit up red, that does mean it's muted. So if I were to go over and hit the mute button, it will turn back to white. That means you're unmuted and ready to go. So With the other side, these are all your outputs. The group DCA 1 through 8 button, I don't have anything programmed on those. It is not a big deal. We won't use that side for that. The bus 1 through 8 controls your monitors. This is how much signal that your monitor is receiving. So when you go in and you hit bus 1 through 8, you want to make sure that those are all up to what we call unity or 0, because that is going to give you the most control from these bus sends up here. Now from this is where it gets kind of technical, but yet really cool at the same time. If you hit the sends on fader button, you can actually go over and select what monitor you want to see, hit that button, and it will show you everything that is going to monitor 1 if you select that channel. So all of these channels are being heard out of the monitor number 1. That would be mostly vocals, from what it looks like, a lot of piano, which is good for Danae.
I'm not playing it this morning.
So, but if you go to 2, it's going to show you exactly what's going through that monitor. And if you want to listen to it, you can actually plug in a set of headphones, which there are 2 headphone jacks on this board, one on each side, located right underneath the handles. You can actually hit the solo button, and you can actually hear what's coming out of the monitor yourself back here.
So how did you get there? Show me one more time.
I went to bus 1 through 8.
Right?
You select what monitor you want, and then hit sends to on fader.
Okay.
And then from here, you can actually also adjust what needs to come up, what needs to come down, depending on what the performer or person is asking for. I don't tend to use this very often, the sends on fader button, but I mean, it's purely your choice.
That'll be my friend.
What? Okay. When this button over here, this is your main outputs. This controls every volume that's coming out of the board as 1. When this button is flashing, it means that you've hit a solo button on one of the channels or on one of the outputs. You can just go over and clear that button. It doesn't do anything, but if you're listening through headphones, you'll still be hearing that channel only. So that's what that button does. Also on the outputs, 9 through 16 are your effects sends. You've got 2 different sets of reverbs, a delay, and a chorus set up in your effects. Now in this room, we will not use those because of the acoustic settings. But if we were, you could actually come up to the bus send in 13 through 16, hit that button, and this is where your effects for whichever channel you have selected will actually come through. 1 and 2 are going to be your 2 reverbs. Your number 3 is going to be delay, and number 4 will be the chorus. So that's how you'll actually bring those up in a channel. Also, on the outputs, we have the matrix. And I have set up in matrix 1 is where you control the main volume for the hallways, or this signal output to the amp that controls the volume for those speakers. And that's all throughout the building. Also, I have this set up to control the camera for recording the sermons and whatnot. Please make sure that you pay attention to what the camera is receiving on the camera itself when you do this. Because if you shove this all the way up, you just ruined your recording, because this output is so sensitive. Which is why the slider is way down. Because, like I said, it's controlled from the main volume. So when you set the main volume, set it at 0 or unity, because that controls everything. Also, I want to bring up a fact that on the computer, if you guys use the computer during the week and you turn down the speakers, please turn them back up. I have the board set up at with the gain input on channel 19, I have it set up to where that is coming in with the speakers at 90%. And if that changes to 40, like some people leave them, that I've noticed this past week while setting this up, that will change everything about that input. And you'll be sitting here trying to figure out why it's so soft. So when you do use the computer, please bring the speaker output level back up to 90%. If not, we'll have issues and I'll be getting phone calls and I'll be like, okay, what'd you do? And
We'll say nothing.
Tommy, I'm going to Sunday school.
Have a good time.
you're gonna need a ride home? Okay, so. Are there any questions so far?
I think I was talking to Dan yesterday, and he said, so you said that it all resets to what you had it on last,
Yes.
but he's saying something along the lines, the masters go back to 0?
The way it's set up, if you go back and bring up startup file number 2, which is what we have the original file saved as in the board, it will bring that master, the main volume, down to 0 and it will mute it automatically.
Okay.
So, like I said, you really want to pay attention to what channels are muted and which ones are not.
Okay.
Because if not, it'll scare you. Because, I mean, you'll be sitting here trying to figure out what's going on, and when it's just as simple as unmuting a channel, and then by the time you've got it up all the way, say like it's up to +10, you're going to blow everybody out of here. Because not only did I adjust all the inputs, the EQs, but I actually also raised the volume of the speakers up on stage coming out this way, and we moved them. So you want to make sure that you're at unity and make sure that you unmute this before you pull it up, so that way you can kind of hear as you go up how loud you're going.
Okay.
But yeah, every time the board turns on, even if you left that at 0 there, the main will go to all the way off. So every time
Unless you
power
did
up-
not save it.
Yes, if you didn't save it.
But with these boards, it will automatically bring up, even if, say, I shut all this down and put all my sliders down at 0, brought it back up, my sliders would come all the way back up to where they were last. But if you pull it up from the programming, that's when it will take everything back down to 0.
So like if we shut it down for Sunday school and pull it back up for second service, will that main go back to
To 0?
0? Or will we have to push it up? We just need to check it.
No, if you did not save it as a new file or go back and open up startup file number 2, it will reset itself to what exactly it was when you shut it down.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
if I go back in and go to setup, and this is going to be part of the shutdown process, and I'll go through this again, but if we shut this down, I'm going to shut the speakers off to do this so I don't pop them. If I shut this down, move all my sliders down,
I want to kick them if this don't work.
you can. I'll let you. But once this thing starts back up, you'll see that all the sliders will go back to where I had them.
See,
Except the main.
Except for the main.
except for the main. The main's the only one that is not reset.
So we always need to check the main.
Yes. But in this instance, it did not come up as muted.
Right,
So
we just need to.
that's actually a good thing right there.
Right.
Because if it does that, your speakers will pop, and after a while that gets really hard on them and it'll start blowing them.
Right.
So when we do that, that's when you want to unmute it and raise it up gradually. I mean, just don't shove it all the way up there and say, hey, I can't hear anything. So, but now on the shutdown process of these boards, you need to go ahead, take your mains all the way down, you'll go over here to the setup button on the side of the screen. You'll push it. It'll have global, config, remote, network, scruple strip, preamps, and card. Go over to global. Shutdown will be highlighted with orange. You'll push this first button and it'll say please wait, and it'll give you a message that you can now safely switch the console off. That's when you'll want to turn off the speakers. And then once the speakers are off, then you can come over here and hit this blue switch over here. If not, speakers will pop and we're going through that scenario again. So, does anybody have any questions?
Did you show them where the phone was at on auxiliary input?
I did not. I can do that.
It's just on the auxiliary input down
I was
on the
gonna say, I have
bottom.
a couple more questions, but they're not gonna wanna listen to them, so.
No, then that's fine.
Well, you might.
Yeah.
Somebody else might have the same questions.
So what do you have it, so you talked about programs. Is there any in there now, or is it just?
No, there are,
Great.
it is programmed.
Okay.
And I have a backup file, which is the start file 2. There are 2 startup files in there. One has all the original settings that my board does. So that way, if you guys need a startup file to just start with, we can pull that up and then we can make adjustments as we go. It's got
From your board when,
Huh?
like, period, or?
Yes,
From
it-
your board when we were at the lake?
From my board when we were at the lake.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
So, but you guys don't have all the equipment that I do to run from this board.
Right, well, and if only this sounded like the lake.
I know, right?
It doesn't, we don't sing in a barrel at the lake. And
Kinda,
not as much.
more like a jar.
True.
But the startup 2 file actually is set up for your board. So if something happens and your board crashes, we can go back and we can pull up that file and we'll be ready to go.
Right. Okay.
So that file is also backed up on a thumb drive in the safe.
Sweet.
So if you cannot pull it up from the board, we actually have a backup. And if I need to, I'll go put it on another thumb drive and I'll keep it for me.
It'll be fine in the safe.
Because I've got 2 for my board.
All things in the safe are safe.
Right. If we could just remember what that goes to. 'Cause I don't-
Combination.
I don't think there are any other thumb drives in the safe.
No, but it just depends on, if somebody else.
I'll bring my labeler. Go ahead.
Okay.
When in doubt. I
When in
use the
doubt,
labeler.
label it. Okay, also on the left side, we have channel 1 through 16 in the layers. We have channel 17 through 32 in the layers, but we also have an auxiliary input.
Right.
Now, on this is where the phone connection comes in. The phone connection will actually let you hook up a phone and play directly from there. This is on channels 5 and 6. Now, once again, this is just like the CD player. These 2 channels are linked together for a stereo input. You only need to move one of the sliders. Do not, I repeat, do not move both of them at the same time. You will strip one out.
Put a piece of tape across 2 of those?
You're not
Nope.
allowed to
Okay.
put tape on the
Let me
board.
set
Not allowed to put tape on the board.
They make a harness?
If,
Nope.
if somebody comes in with a split track CD, which you have to kill the right side to get rid of the voices,
Right.
Okay?
what do we do?
You can unlink these and mute either side.
Hey,
And
by the way, I have an adapter for Apple phone to hook into your
Ooh, a
to your
dongle.
plug. I'll bring one to you.
I thought we had one
And-
yesterday.
and I'll
Was that
just
yours?
show you.
Okay.
okay.
We keep
Okay.
one in the van.
Because I need one for me, yeah.
Darn
I think the
iPhone
church,
users.
I think we have one as well.
But you can hook up your laptops there too, instead of
Always-
unplugging the
always
other
good to see
computer
you.
if you wanted to play
You're
music
dressed appropriately, I like
Okay.
that.
on Wednesday and not have to use it.
Okay.
But, so it is possible to go through and unlink these. You'll actually do that from the home screen. You'll select the channel. It will bring up the link on the screen in the home section. And it will be highlighted, and to unlink them, you just hit that button. So, does that answer questions? Okay, you said you had other questions. What are they?
I just want to go over one more time, because I'm, up there and a little anal about my monitors. How
Okay.
to fix those.
What are you wanting to fix?
Let's say we're up there and, well, this morning I needed a little more me in the monitor.
Okay, so what you'll do is, what microphone are
3.
you on?
I was 3.
3. We'll go over and hit channel 3.
Yep.
And which monitor were you in?
3.
3. Okay, we'll go to monitor 3.
Yep.
And we'll actually just bump you up by turning that.
Gotcha. That's what I thought. I was just making sure.
Easy peasy.
And then once that's done, then it's done, right?
Yes.
And if, like, we practice Wednesday and we shut it off, then when we come in Sunday and turn it on, that will still be like that, right?
Yep.
Yes!
Yeah, if you switch to microphone 2, we may have to readjust it.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yes.
Ideally,
We'll have to
I'd
readjust.
like to be here for practice, and then we could label who's on each microphone.
Yes.
And then we can keep that.
I wanted to kind of see how this all worked, and then I thought
If
I
you
would make
do
a
that,
sheet to
I
let
would
people
rather you
know.
make a list on a separate sheet of paper.
No, I'm gonna make a sheet.
Okay, awesome,
We
because.
might, like,
Because. Wrong.
No tape on the board today.
okay, well, I'm going to maybe put the startup procedures laminated real nicely here.
Wrong.
I might even cut it, I won't tape it. I'll just cut it so it fits snug.
That might be workable.
Okay. Hey, is this steel,
The slides? No.
that
The
case
board?
there?
The casing is metal, yes.
Okay, then could you put magnet?
No.
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 This is all digital.
It'll mess it up.
It'll mess it up.
It'll
Okay.
start messing with signals.
I'll just cut it, it'll fit, it'll be all right.
The scribble strip,
Okay.
if you're going to label anything, go back and do it through that. And the way you do that is you go back into setup, and you'll scroll over using the arrow keys to where it says scribble strip.
Okay.
And then say we've got channel 3 selected. It says wireless mic, radio frequency, picture, color. And if you want to edit, you just go to the edit button, and then you can go back.
Does that have a 150 diopter on it for?
So to be honest, we could just like,
Or reading
this week
glasses.
it could say Danae. And as long as we put
Yeah.
a sheet
You
up there,
can't have
that,
2 spots on the board.
Yeah.
You've already got a body pack labeled.
I'm not singing with a body pack, that looks
You
weird.
get 125 or 150
But
then?
I'm not playing.
I'll admit that, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know what to do with your hands.
The motions.
Well, I would do a lot with my hands, and that would
It
be
helps if you're
part of
playing
the
piano.
problem. We all saw this
That's what
morning
you
what
can do with
happens
your
when
hands.
Danae gets too involved in the
Some
music
rash
and
about
doesn't
it.
have to pay
Then
it.
you can finally see the
It's wonderful,
the
isn't it?
referee.
I jumped to the wrong
Yeah.
one.
Oh.
No, it's not wonderful.
Well, there's a bad call.
So this is how you can go through and
I didn't
change
get there till like
what's
8 minutes left
labeled
in the
where.
game, 'cause I was told to start
And that's
nine.
gonna be the
I was there at
easiest,
8:45.
instead
It was
of,
over.
unless you wanna write the list.
And once you put the name in there, it's there, you just gotta select it. Correct?
Uh,
It kind of saves everything you put in there.
It'll save everything you put in here until you change it.
I know, but does it save it in the scribble strip
So
where
like,
you can
if
select
I
your
put
later
Yes.
on?
Danae in,
I think it
then
does.
I have to
Because I added the
do
EL
my
afternoon
3 or
too,
Danae
just to
for my
test it
3 every
for-
time? For that change?
No, it'll change
Should change it
every
to
time,
mine.
unless you just keep it there.
And then at halftime of the boys' game after.
There
that,
might be
30
some of
people
those
come
we
in
do
the door,
that with.
everybody's leaving, and just getting there for the game, I'm like.
I mean, like,
I've already missed it for
say Kevin, if he sings in microphone 1 all the time, you can actually go back in and we can go through and we can save his scene. And we can save a file with his
Wow, with his-
EQ on number 1, but that'll save the whole thing. That will save everything that's on the board for that week. So say, okay, so say you have a group of 4 people singing that sing together all the time.
Right.
Okay, with those 4 people, you could actually go in, set their EQ, set their
Right.
gain structure, set their compression levels.
Right.
If they sing together all the time, I would go back in and save a file just for them. So
Gotcha.
that way, if they're singing on Sundays all the time together, you can go up and pull that file up and boom, you're ready to go with all those people as long as they're on the same microphone.
Right.
And you can, if you,
That's what I thought.
if you write it in the scribble strip, you can say, hey, Kevin, grab mic 1. Hey,
how do I
hey,
do
grab
that?
mic 3.
Go back.
Go back to where?
Like, how do I get here?
Okay, you'll go over to scenes.
Yep.
On the board, hit view. You'll go to scenes and you you'll scroll down to number 3,
Right.
and you'll hit save,
Okay.
and that will give you the option to name it.
Yep,
Um,
got it.
and you can name that group singing group
Well,
number
like
1.
if, generally, Shelley leads, Danielle's lead, Rebecca's lead-ish, she's lead, I just don't tell her, it freaks her out.
This is being recorded.
Yes,
Rebecca's not
I
allowed
don't
to
think
watch
she'll
it.
watch it. Yeah.
But like,
and neither is Mitch, because he'll tell her.
Yeah.
yeah. But to be honest, yeah, those 3 could just be, I wouldn't even need to save a separate thing, 'cause, yeah. Basically, one of those 3 is always up, and then we sub in a couple other people. So if they were just
And we could use
1,
those.
2, 3,
and if we could
we
use those
equalize
as 4
their
and
blanks
5.
as 1, 2,
Now, let
3,
me
or
ask you-
whoever, whichever numbers, like Shelley's 5. So Shelley from
Say
now on
that-
will be 5.
Dave, when one of them is having a slower voice day, you can go ahead and then tweak it from that mode, like.
It's a
let's say
startup
you
spot.
need to boost Danielle a little bit.
It basically just gives everybody a good starting.
Okay, that's what I'm saying, so you can, then you can
Yeah.
adjust it from there.
And you can tweak it or bring them down,
Okay.
however you want to do it.
I like that versatility.
This
But if
board is
we know
amazing.
Shelley's on 5, like, if you hop up next week, you should probably grab my mic on 3, not Shelley's mic on 5, because it's gonna be a lot harder to equalize you off of Shelley's mic, because hers is set for her voice, which
Okay.
is tinnier than your voice. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or grab number 1,
Right.
and we can
Start
set
it.
an EQ for you.
Yeah.
And take out a lot more of the bass tones
Yeah.
and
Right.
lower mids.
Yeah,
So.
no man wants to sound like he has more bass, it's,
Well, it depends on what you're singing, yeah.
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 For a
Depends
choir
on-
instance,
depends on the bucket.
I would actually, if I was recording or doing sound for a choir, I would actually have a row of microphones just for the basses, and then bring up the bass in that set of microphones,
There's
but
never enough of them.
not exactly, and that's why I would do that. So, when you go through and you want to reset a gain structure for a microphone, say, just for example, Shelley is going to need less gain than what you do because your voice is lower, we need to push it a little bit more. We'll go in, we'll select channel 1, we'll come up here to the gain config,
Okay.
we'll hit the view, we'll hit the solo button on channel 1. That's when you're going to start speaking into the microphone, and I will actually bring up your gain or bring it down. And along with that, I will go to the equalizer, hit the view button, and I will actually dial in your equalization with bass, low mids, and highs to equal that out to what sounds good out here.
Now, I'm presuming we do the same thing with the preaching microphone, because a lot of times, no matter where I'm sitting, some things just get muddied.
He
Because,
sounds like he's in a tin can.
yeah,
Yeah, that doesn't happen
and it
anymore.
doesn't seem to matter whether it's Mitch or Kirk or whomsoever, whoever's up there running it, it just
We
sounds,
fixed
We,
it
we,
already.
we fixed it already.
I love it.
And I don't sound that way either.
And yeah, we actually put on a new microphone for her body pack, and it made a huge difference.
Okay.
Because Dan and I sat here probably for, 2 hours Friday, and we went through microphones, set all the EQs. We had Mitch read a book,
Oh, okay.
and I actually went through and redid his whole EQ. Now up on stage it may sound a little different than what it sounds like out here, just because you're behind the speakers instead of in front of them.
Right, but I'm just talking, when I'm sitting over there by that pillar over there, I'm close to speakers, I'm close to the guy speaking, and I still,
But it's shooting over your head and the
Yeah.
bass is hitting you. Because
Yeah.
the bass speakers was hitting you, the tweeter's going over your head.
Yeah.
well,
And that's why the first few cues in the front usually always got their sound from the monitors.
Right.
When they first started.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
what they was able to hear.
Yes, and we got new monitors.
you mentioned that the other day, and I'm glad to hear that too.
And these are, in my opinion, a lot easier to control, because not only do you have the volume back here, you have separate volumes for each monitor up on stage.
Good.
Input and main volumes on those. They're
And
all
if
self-powered and they are
Beverly ever
high
comes
powered.
in and asks you to practice, all you
I'm
have to
digging.
do is flip on the
You're-
conditioner
you're
and the
gonna love it.
switch,
All
and then you
wireless
can
mics.
plug the,
When you're
there's a
out there singing,
cord
you come back and
back
run.
there. You can just unplug
There you
the
go.
piano from the
Oh, that's
system
why
and plug it
I
into
didn't know
that
our meeting
monitor
today,
beside it,
that's
and
the only
then
reason I
she can
wanted
play through the
to learn
monitor
this
and you don't have to
because
turn
Here's
on
the
the
cool
board.
thing
Oh,
about
good.
these
Okay.
digital
You
boards.
can do it both.
On the schedule.
You can
Not
set it,
for
you know what I'm
a
saying?
couple
But here's the
weeks.
cool thing, if you guys have a tablet, we can update the firmware in the board and the stage box to where you can run this off of a tablet anywhere in this room.
So you could be on stage and adjust your monitors on stage while you're sitting there.
With what you want, but in order,
Android or iOS?
either one.
Okay, because I've got a spare,
Yeah, what does that take? Because I could have you put it on the security ministries tablet, so on Wednesdays, if we don't have somebody on the board, we don't have to, I mean, I like
We
getting
have
my
an
steps in,
iPad.
but
I have an iPad in my office. It's just an older one, so I don't know if it'll probably work.
It
iPad
will,
4, yeah.
but we'll need to go in and update the firmware on the board and the stage box before we do that. I went and bought a new router for you guys. So it is brand new. It's on the 5 gigahertz. So it will be you can control it anywhere. Somebody running this, if they decide that they don't want to sit back here, but they want to go sit with their family, grab the tablet, take it with you. Because everything that is done on that tablet will move everything on this board. If you're sitting here and you're moving a slide on your tablet, it's gonna move it back here on this board. If you're moving it back here on this board, it's gonna move it on the tablet. So that's kind of a really cool feature about these. You can, if I would have had this a couple of Sundays ago, you would have seen me walking around with a tablet making adjustments because I had a lot of weird looks anyway, but I would have had a lot more weirder looks if they were watching me walk around with a tablet.
and that was even folks that don't know you like I do.
Exactly. Exactly, because you knew what I was doing. They had no clue, which is fine.
But I give you weird looks just because I know you enjoy it.
It's you, dude. I expect them. But with this board, there's a lot more versatility. You can actually record straight off of this board if you want to, in stereo, not just mono. And a much cooler thing is this actually has a talkback mic to where you can talk to people on the stage without, and if the monitors are low enough, Danae, they won't be able to really understand what you're saying, but it's gonna be a lot easier than yelling across the room. You can speak to one person individually, or you can speak to everybody. And it makes a huge difference when you're trying to do setups, getting everybody together. Because I know in my experience, people like to talk while they're setting up.
we never talk.
I'm not saying it's you guys, but I'm just saying in my experiences,
It's us.
there are guitar players who are trying to play and show off, and drummers drumming.
Drummers are the worst.
That's the next
And,
step.
and, you know, keyboard people trying to tune in with the guitars, which is fine, but when it's my turn, it's gonna be my turn to set sound, do everybody at
Yep.
one time, get it done, get in and get out, so that way we can have a lot more time for band sound checks.
Yep.
And if you can talk to people through the monitors, it's a lot easier than trying to scream at them through an arena or a big venue.
How do you talk directly through a monitor? I know,
This has a talkback option. The microphone is hooked up. You'll go over here to talk A, select the button, and you'll be able to talk to everybody as long as the
You touch
monitors
room
are
for
hooked
Yeah,
up.
nothing's turned on.
No.
okay.
Oh, then you'll. Now, what are we gonna do to lock this thing down and keep people from messing with it?
That's where we have the program reset back to what we started from.
Okay,
Even if like, say I'm in here on Wednesday putting stuff in and Ava's here and the last board, if I wasn't paying attention and it was into my thing and she started touching,
yeah.
I was in trouble. This one, I just push it to
it
go
reset.
back and
Okay.
it resets itself.
So now you can hear that I'm talking through the monitors only. Now, if you want to bring those down, you'll actually have to go through the monitor system in here,
Be number 3.
and I can turn them all down. And you can turn your volume down here too, so that way they can hear you, but not everybody else out here can.
So you're gonna mess with people if you want to.
Yeah, and I used to do it to people on stage all the time. I'd grab the mic, hit talkback A, and start singing harmonies, and they'd start looking around to see who in the band was singing harmonies. Hey, it got me a job.
I struggle enough to sing with myself, or not with myself.
But to turn it off, you'll just hit it again, clear the button.
Now, since you had channel 1 selected there, is channel 1's monitors jacked up now?
No. Well, they're all turned down.
Don't do that.
Turn 3 way back up. Do you guys have monitor 4 going?
No, you got
Just-
monitor, the piano monitor and monitor.
So,
2 and 3.
2 and 3, no, 1 and 2? Where,
1 and 3. No.
Two,
where are you
three.
pulling the vocal monitor from? 3?
3.
Okay,
Stage looks really clean.
it does.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that was one of the reasons why Dan and I worked so hard this past week to rerun cables and resolder, refigure, and do that. And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to go with wireless mics, to clean up the stage,
Yeah.
because,
well, the electric spaghetti is just,
Now, one thing about it, the only boxes that are live now in the floor for microphones is the one in the middle of the stage with instruments all plugged in. All
Okay.
6 plugs are hooked up, ready to roll. And then across the front, there's one hot one in each hole, and then one other that is wired in, that's not plugged into the system.
Okay.
That way, for kids' programs, we can still put mics across the front of the
Oh, perfect.
stage if you need to.
Right.
and we can reroute monitors with cables to go across the front of the
to
stage
supplement.
Right.
wherever we need them.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, there's 5 monitors up there, so.
And
Yeah.
the boxes are all labeled on top too, so if it doesn't say it has an input, it doesn't have, like, that box just says the monitor number.
by the wall back there, yes, it is monitor only.
Now, your big box back there,
The one hanging on the wall?
The motherboard.
yeah,
Yes, that is the new stage box.
Okay.
That's the main brain for the stage.
should put the pulpit around it.
Where they're actually gonna build.
Someday there's gonna be a wall, but now the roof is leaking, so it's on further hold.
Awesome. But, that will actually have a casing that goes underneath of it to hide the wires.
Right up above there where those panels are,
Uh-huh.
that's where the Leslie speakers used to be for the
Yeah.
big organ. And,
We put the wall up, those are going away,
yeah,
because that's gross.
yeah, if you understand why that looks that color, because it's dirty. not because
Right,
it's-
yeah, that's why it's
painted like
going
that.
away.
No, yeah, we.
I voted for big Core 52 banners to hang over it, but Mitchell said that would be obnoxious for 52 weeks, so I got
That would
outvoted.
not. That'd be funny.
So, does anybody have any questions about the board?
I'm gonna, because I got here late, but you can catch me up later.
Okay. All right.
I just take solace in if I go
All right.
back to
Thank
the
you, John.
original setup.
You're welcome. And if there are any questions, please feel free to